Hi everyone, it's Lynn Dion from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I've got a brand new matchbook to show you, and this is the set. This is called the Christmas Town Matchbook, and this is a Simon Says Stamp exclusive. So this is in conjunction with Art Impressions and Simon Says Stamps, and we are going to create this adorable little matchbook. And as you know, there's several matchbook sets available. I'll talk about those a little bit more as we go along, but I've grabbed all the stamps from the set and I'm going to go ahead and ink these up. I'm using a permanent black ink, and we're going to be doing some color with some water-based markers today. I'm pressing that out with my Stampendable stamp press, and I've stamped that onto some Strathmore Bristol smooth cardstock. For coloring, I'm using the Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. I started off with that ice blue. I used that on each of the little windows, and then I'm going to add it to some of these snowy areas on the snowman. I will be listing those colors in the upper left-hand corner as we're going along. And I'm using the Zig blender pen to do my blending, but you could certainly use a water brush here if you prefer. Switching over to the pale rose and the dark blossom pink, I'm going to color in this first little townhouse. So as I said, there's several matchbook sets available. And to do each of these matchbooks, you will need to have the matchbook template die set, which is pictured on that packaging that I showed you earlier. And you also, to create the matching envelope, you would need the matchbook envelope die set. And I'll show you both of those just so you know exactly what you need in order to create this. So this stamp set has all the pieces. Basically, it's like an add-on. It has all the pieces you need to create this particular design for your matchbook. And then, of course, as always, when it's a Simon Says Stamp exclusive set, it's only offered for a limited time, basically until it's sold out. So if you really do love this, you probably want to order it right away, because once it's sold out, it will not be available again. I just want to make sure you know that. If you need to pause and place that order, feel free to go ahead and do that. As you probably already know, I absolutely love the matchbooks. I love everything about them. They're interactive, so they fold up to the size of a little tiny envelope, and then you can place it in the envelope. So they're just so cute, and when you open them up, you have this little scene inside. There is currently so many of these available, and I've been collecting them, and I know a lot of you have been. There's a coffee shop, a sewing room, there's another Christmas one, there's a school, nursery, a birthday set, a kitchen set, salon, a hair salon. There's a get well one, a matchbook den, a craft room. That one is so cute. And there's Halloween, there's a wedding chapel, a diner, another Christmas one. There's a bait and tackle, a nativity set, a gnome home. If you love gnomes, this one is just so sweet. There's a garden. Oh, there's a chicken coop set, a little cat set, and a tool shed. So, like I said, there are just so many of them, and they're so much fun. And anyone who receives these just loves these. They're so interactive, and they're quite small. They're about 1 7/8 inch across, so not quite 2 inches across, and about 2 inches tall when it's folded. And you'll see when we fold it up, it has a nice little flap with a notch, so everything stays closed up nicely until your recipient is ready to open it up. I'll show you exactly how to create all of this. So I'm continuing to do my coloring on my little townhouses. I went with the beige and mid-brown on all the roofs, so I did them all the same, and I'm going to do all the front doors the same way as well. And do keep in mind that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below, and also on my blog. And I did keep all the coloring in because I know a lot of you like to see the coloring. And I'm going for kind of a more of an evening palette, a darker palette. I'm going to be using for the matchbook base, we're going to be using kind of a darker blue with little white snowflakes on it. So this will all go together nicely and give us kind of more of an evening look. So we're almost done with the coloring. Let's just do the little band on his hat. And again, some of the coloring I did off camera, like those additional two little houses there, I did off camera because I colored them exactly the same way as I did those first ones. And then for the ornaments on the tree, I'm just going to mix up a variety of those colors, just to make everything tie together. But you could certainly add more colors. I tend to like to pick my color palette in the beginning, and then I just stick with those colors. I tend not to add more colors. That's just the way I tend to go about it. You can certainly add as many colors as you like. And then I'll do a little bit of light gray for some shadowing. And then the final thing I need to color in is the little lamp post. And I'm using that cool gray. I tend to go to the cool gray number 6 rather than the black. I just like the way that it looks. Sometimes the black can have a little bit of a purpley tint to it. And then I added a little bit of light there with the yellow and the mustard for the light post. And we'll just go ahead and finish up that hat with that same color. So now that everything's colored in, we have the coordinating dies that come with the set, and you want to tape these down nice and carefully. Do take some time to make sure you tape these down and position them really well so that all of your score lines will be in the right place. I did decide to grab my Wink of Stella clear glitter pen, and I added some clear glitter to the windows on all the little townhouses and on that lamppost. And then I've got some Judikins Diamond Glaze. This is just a clear glaze. It's a dimensional glaze, so when it dries, it will dry clear. You can see that there. I'll let that dry. It takes a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so for that to dry completely. And then I've got my white gel pen. I'm going to add some little polka dots to the scarf on my snowman. You could also add some highlights with your white gel pen as well, but I'm going to first grab my Doc P.H. Martin's bleed proof white ink, and I'm going to take a small number 0 paintbrush and just add some snow here and there. I'm going to add it to the rooftops, and this is just going to give it a lot of interest and a lot of texture. And I am putting it down, fairly thick. I'm not watering it down at all. I'm just grabbing it as is. I put some on my glass media mat. I'm just picking that up directly from the mat and adding some snow to my little trees, to the rooftops, just for a little bit more interest and dimension. Gives it more of a wintry look. And you can see I'm not being fussy at all. I'm just kind of patting it on, using more of kind of an up and down motion, just sort of tapping it on. I'll add a little bit around the bottom of the snowman and around the bottom of these packages. And I added a little to the top of his hat as well. Now going back with that white gel pen, I'm going to add a few highlights. And here's where you can add some stripes or plaids or polka dots to your little presents. Now let's take a look at the two dies you will need to create your template and your envelope. This is the Matchbook template die set, and you can see this creates the base for our little matchbook. And it has several little additional items in it. It has a little easel for the back, and then it also has some little rugs that are available, some little icons. There's that easel. It's got a couple different window shapes. And then that is a little plaque that you can place in front that could include your sentiment. And then I've got the Matchbook envelope die set. This is a little bit of a dimensional envelope, so it has a little bit of depth to it to fit your matchbook. And it comes with a bow, a little mini envelope, and a little tag as well. So it's really fun. It's a nice little set. But you do need those two die sets. And again, that will be listed and linked down below for you, so you know exactly what you need in order to create the template and the envelope. I'm just looking over the papers that I've chosen, and I want to place the die on the side for the envelope. I want to place the die on the side that I want to be the outside. and then I want to do the same thing for the matchbook template. So the side I'm placing the die on will be the outside of the envelope and the outside of my template. So you do want to keep that in mind if you have a preference which one you want to be on the inside or the outside of your card. This is a brand new Winter Woodland paper pack from Art Impressions, and it is just so beautiful. I love these blues and greens and some of the tan colors mixed in. I'll give you a quick flip through of that so you get an idea of what comes in that paper pack. So let's go ahead and run these through the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I'm placing them on a little bit of an angle just to make them easier to run through the machine. Once I have these die cut, we can go ahead and fold on those score lines. Now when you die cut it, all of those score lines are provided for you, so you'll know exactly where to fold this. I'm going to grab a bone folder and just make sure I press these out and get some nice creases on all of these folds. Now for the top, there'll be 2 score lines, so I'm going to fold it here, and then it has this little ruffled flap for the top of our matchbook. So you can see that's the base for any of the matchbooks that you create. That creates the little base. And again, there is a little easel for that, but sometimes it just stands up on its own, so you don't necessarily need that. The envelope has 2 score lines all the way around. As I mentioned before, it's a little bit dimensional. It's about a 1/16 of an inch, that second score line away from the first one. And I'll show you a little trick for that. I go ahead and I fold that first score line. For the second one, since I do have a little difficulty folding that second one, I use a straight edge on my acrylic block and I just press it right along that score line, and that easily folds it for me. So just a little trick for you, just to make things a little bit simpler. And then you can see that we'll add some adhesive to this later on. I went ahead and folded all of those lines, and it creates this cute little dimensional envelope. But I won't add my adhesive yet because I want to build my matchbook first, just to make sure everything fits nicely. So now you have some score lines on these pieces that we die cut. So I'm going to fold on those 2 score lines off to the right hand side. You have 2 score lines, and you can see that will create that little piece that will attach to our matchbook. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And it is a good idea to use a bone folder to press out these folds really well. That'll make your matchbook work a lot easier. So now that I have those folded, we can go ahead and attach this to the center part of our matchbook. So what I'm going to do is grab some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, and I'm going to place it on this back tab, just that back tab. I'm going to do that on both sides. I'm using my finger just to make sure I spread that right up to that fold line. And I'll do the same thing here. So now we can attach this. Now for the right side, I'm going to fold in both of those little flaps. And for the left side, just one. So you can see that up close. And then I'm going to position this right in the center towards the bottom. I want to go along that fold line on the bottom and the fold line on the left. So you can see that it's going to fit in there nicely. And then I like to grab my bone folder and just press that out just to make sure it's nice and secure. Let's do the next piece. I'm going to fold on that score line, add some adhesive, and then this will go on the left hand side, and I'm going to put it right along the left corner and the bottom. So you want to make sure it doesn't go below the bottom edge there, otherwise this won't fold up nicely. So I've added some to this next tab for the little Christmas tree, and that'll go along the right side. Again, I'm following those 2 lines. I don't want to go below that corner. And so now we have those 2 pieces in place, and this one with the little presents will fold up from the bottom. So I'm folding on that score line, and then I want to make sure I don't put it on that notch. So I'm going to go just in front of that notch a little bit, because this has to fold flat when we fold this up. So you want to make sure it doesn't interfere with the folding of your little matchbook. Then I've got these pieces, and I love this little idea here. This is the piece of additional little townhouses that we can place behind these other three. And I love how this looks. It just really finishes it off and fills in that little town nicely. And again, you want to watch that score line up at the top. You don't want to go above that so that you can still fold this nicely. And let's press that out with the bone folder. And look at that. Isn't that just so cute? Now I've got a couple little trees that come with the set. You could certainly stamp additional trees if you wanted to, but I'm going to make sure that they don't get in the way of folding the matchbook again. So I'm just checking that out. Now I did end up placing this one down, and I realized that it was going to get in the way. I wanted it to overhang that townhouse a little bit, but you can see that it gets in the way of folding this. So I'm going to move it in closer to that score line. And I'll do the same thing with this little tree. Just putting this one off to the right-hand side. You could add a little dimensional foam tape here, but again, that will just make your matchbook a little bit thicker. So you do want to be careful of some of that. Now we're going to press these flat. So we're folding in both sides. And then we're going to fold up the bottom flap. Tuck that little scalloped edge right into that notch. And I like to just fuss around with this a little bit. I find after a few times of opening and closing it, it works really well. So I like to just kind of keep working those little folds and then opening and closing it a few times just to make sure everything is working. So there you can see the base of the matchbook, and I did want to add a sentiment to this. This little set comes with two sentiments, Let It Snow and Oh What Fun. We'll be using both of those today, but I'm going to use the Let It Snow for the front flap on our little matchbook. Now again, there is in the template set, there is that little pop-up sentiment banner that you could also use, but I thought it would be cute to have it right on the flap, and it fits perfectly. So I am going to place this back in my mini MISTI stamp positioner, and I've lined that up right on that flap, and I'll go ahead and stamp that. The positioner makes this really easy to line up and get a perfect stamping. So now for the envelope, I can go ahead now and fold everything up. Again, the two sides come in and press those little presents down flat. Fold that up from the bottom and then attach that scalloped edge into that notch. And then what I like to do is make sure that it fits in here perfectly. So I place it right inside my envelope, and then I put my adhesive on. And then I know it's going to slide in and out nicely and fit perfectly. Again, it depends on how much dimension you put on the inside of your little matchbook. So let's let that dry. I placed an acrylic block on there to let that dry. And while that was drying, I decided to decorate the envelope a little bit more. So I stamped a few more items. I went back and stamped and colored in that little snowman. And we won't need that little flap, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that away. And this will go along the left-hand corner of the front of my envelope. And then I thought I'd add a couple of these little trees. So I went ahead and glued down the snowman in that left-hand corner. And for this smaller tree, I'm just going to pop that up with a little foam square right on the front of these trees. And then we'll add some adhesive to this and glue this in place. Now I am going to use that second sentiment on the front of my envelope. Now if I knew that I was going to do that ahead of time, I probably would have stamped that before I assembled my envelope. But it worked out fine. Because it's thick, I decided to remove that foam pad from my mini MISTI, and then I grabbed that other sentiment that says, Oh What Fun, and I'm lining it up, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp it. And you'll see that, and I did keep the matchbook inside just to give it a little bit of thickness there, so I would be stamping on a flat surface, and it worked out perfectly. So for a few little snowflake sequins, I decided to grab some little sequins from my Picket Studio Icicles collection, and I'm going to place those all over the front, and this will add a little sparkle and a little bit more interest to the front of my envelope. And then once I did that, I thought, gee, these are nice and flat. This would be really fun to attach some of these to the inside of the card as well. And again, there's no bulk, so it's not going to have any problem creating extra bulk on the inside of my matchbook. So I added quite a few of these to the inside just to make them look like they were kind of falling down all over. I added one to the little presents as well. And then I decided to add 2 of them to this front flap just to tie everything together. I'm using my Marvy pick tool to pick those up and place those down. And then I grabbed that Wink of Stella clear glitter pen and I added a little bit more glitter to that lamppost and to the little snowy portions of the snowman and the trees. So once that was all set, we can take a closer look at this finished envelope, and isn't this just so cute? I just love everything about these little matchbooks, and that will stand up nicely. Now let's go ahead and open up our little matchbook. So you just want to open everything up and push that centerpiece back up and pop out these little side pieces and your little packages, and then you can see how cute this is. I just absolutely love it. We've got those little sequins in there, and I do love that little midnight sky, but you could certainly do this in some more sunny, bright colors if you prefer. And again, this will stand up by itself, or you can put that little easel on the back if you prefer. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.